Well, thank you. What a great privilege it is to say, with my Boston accent, howdy. President Lofton, thank you very much. Chancellor Sharp, members of the Board of Regents, especially Fernando, a student at the Bush School, thank you very much for being here. Fellow deans, faculty members, staff, and most of all of you, the graduates and your families and friends on this eve of a big day or the eve before the eve of a big day. It is truly an honor to be with you. President Lofton, thank you for the invitation to speak here, and thank you for the kind introduction that you gave me. Please know that when President Lofton invited me to speak at this convocation, I said what you would say, in fact, what you should always say when you receive an invite from a president. Yes. Soon after it was announced that I would be the one to speak at this convocation, people started coming up to me saying, "Whoa, it's a big deal to speak at the commencement convocation." And then, with sometimes pretty telling body language, they would just list some of those past speakers who addressed this group. I wasn't sure exactly what was being conveyed. I got lots of advice. Mostly I was told, just keep it really short. Some advice was, hey, don't do what so-and-so did, and no, I'm not going to tell you who the so-and-sos are. I did think about saying that my speech was just going to be, howdy, thank you, gig 'em. But no, that's not going to be the end. Remember what you felt like, those of you who are about to graduate, when you sat down to take your last final exam? Well, that is how I'm feeling right now. I mean, you had been prepared by the best, you practiced, you did your homework, you knew exactly what was expected of you. Kind of like the Aggie football team. Unfortunately, we don't get to say, we didn't fail, but instead just ran out of time, ROT. I do like the optimism that comes saying an Aggie never loses. You know, they just need more time. But the real world, little different. So while everyone is telling me that you won't remember a thing that I say to you tonight, and you just really want to get on about partying, I'm asking you to give me a little bit of time. Just a little bit. Please. Thank you. When you leave after graduation tomorrow or Saturday with your A&M degree and an Aggie ring-adorned hand, you will also come to realize that you are grounded to the core in the traditions that make you forever a member of a powerful, supportive Aggie network. Then the invitations will start to come in. Since almost every invitation carries with it an obligation, I want you to really think before you take those invitations and accept them. The truth is, some invitations in life have consequences. Some invitations put you on the wrong path. Some of them do open doors. Some of them may have you change paths. Some are right, some are wrong. Some of my invitations were pretty interesting. When people discover that I worked in the White House for 3 presidents, they usually ask, what was it like to work at the White House? Too often they really mean, how did you get a job at the White House? Or some say, how do you get to work at the White House? You see, I come from a small, blue-collar town, Holbrook, Massachusetts. Yep, I went to a public elementary school, a public high school, a public college. In my sophomore year, I was married to a woman I met in the 5th grade, and before I graduated, we had 2 kids, We've now been married 44 years. We have 3 children and 6 grandchildren. College for me included delivering newspapers 7 days a week and working nights at McDonald's. My degree, a BS, that would be Bachelor of Science, not the other BS, was in engineering. My discipline was structures and mechanics. As an engineer, I did the structural design work on buildings and bridges. And yes, I got to work on some really cool projects. I really enjoyed engineering, but I loved politics and public service. You see, I grew up in a family where my grandmother had been a suffragette. She fought for women to get the right to vote. And she believed politics was a noble calling. In fact, the most noble calling in a democracy. She taught us about accepting the invitation of serving the people in government. However, except for a potential draft notice, you don't get that. I never thought I would get an invitation from a president of the United States. My public service began as a member of the Navy ROTC. That was in college, and at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, followed by opportunities in local government. Right after graduating from the University of South Carolina, working as an engineer, I ran for public office in my hometown, and I was elected to the planning board. 5-year term, no pay, Thursday nights 7 to 9, plot plans, developments, curb cuts, cul-de-sacs, and lots of public policy disputes. By that point in time, the big invitations I had, when I accepted them, I found they included obligations that were compounded by having to take 3 oaths. In the Navy, it was follow the command of the Commander-in-Chief. In marriage, love until death do us part. And in elective office, to meet the duties of the office on which you are about to assume. In 1974, I was elected to the Massachusetts House. That's the House of Representatives, only we call it the Great and General Court in Massachusetts. By the way, it's a relatively lonely place for a Republican to be. 4 terms required that I took the oath 4 times. In 1982, I ran for governor of Massachusetts. I came in 3rd. My 5-year-old son at the time yanked my leg at a press conference right after I said that and said, "Dad, you came in last." If I had won, I would have taken another oath. Speaking about big invitations, one of the greatest invitations is this nation's Constitution. Did you know that today is the 220th anniversary, literally, of the First Amendment to the Constitution being ratified, that made sure that you would be part of our government? Because you see, that Constitution starts off with, "We the people," and it's the First Amendment that gives us voice and the ability to gather and the ability to petition government to address our grievances. So remember December 15th. It was 1791 when that constitutional amendment was ratified. But the Constitution really is amazing because it's really a call for participation in our government, and it's an invitation to serve. Once the invitation is accepted, awesome obligations are imposed. One oath, right from Article 2 in the Constitution, so far has only been taken by 44 people during the entire history of our nation. That would be the oath of office for the President of the United States. Well, that oath is unique. For a president swears to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. There is no conditional clause, and everyone who has taken that oath has added because they needed the help, so help me God. It is also a reality that this particular oath can't be kept without others keeping their oaths, especially those in the military. The ones that keep their oath that calls for them to follow the command of the Commander-in-Chief. Some of you in this hall may have already respected and accepted an invitation to serve. Some have already taken the oath. Others will take the oath right after they graduate tomorrow or on Saturday. Those of you who have ever taken the oath to follow the command of the Commander-in-Chief, or those of you who are about to take it, would you please stand so that we can say thank you? Is there anyone who served in the military? Thank you. In the mid-1970s, I briefly met a then relatively young political leader named George Herbert Walker Bush. He re-entered my life as a virtually unknown candidate for the Republican nomination for President of the United States. He polled a whopping 3% in the polls, or he was defined with an asterisk. Most of my friends in the Bay State thought his name was spelled B-U-S-C-H. That would be the beer guy. Now everyone knows George Bush. What a record of accepting invitations, obligations, and taking oaths he has. On his 18th birthday, the day he graduated from high school, he joined the Navy and is the youngest ever fighter pilot in the Navy. He ran for and got elected to Congress, served as ambassador to the United Nations, was our nation's first envoy to the People's Republic of China. He was director of the CIA, vice president, and then the president of the United States. And his presidential library and museum and School of Government and Public Service are all here in Aggie land. No other university in the entire world has a former president of the United States frequently living on campus, with world leaders coming to visit. 41, as we call him, is often wandering the campus through the halls of academia. Sometimes you can find him fishing, catch and release, down at the man-made pond behind the museum. You'll find him standing as the 12th man at a football game, or a Reed Arena rowdy, champion basketball team, women's basketball team cheerer, and bringing them to victory. Sometimes you'll even find him role-playing as the president, while graduate students at the Bush School debate public policy. Is Texas A&M a special place or what? It sure is. You know, President Bush was wonderful when he gave us an opportunity to have the Bush School of Government and Public Service. I was a member of the team assembled to review the invitation sent to President Bush when he was in office, for him to consider where to put his library and museum. It was no surprise to me when 41 accepted the invitation from Texas A&M. Aggie land is where his historical legacy is housed. And it's attracting researchers and museum tourists. It's also where you find my commitment to A&M etched in stone It's on one of the columns outside the building. However, it is the building right across from the president's apartment, right next door, that he cares about the most. The Bush School. The Bush School is producing the future contributors to government and public service. Those graduates, all Aggies when they earn their master's degrees, are the ones who are the living legacy of one of America's greatest public servants. In fact, he is one of the world's greatest public servants. Yes, all of you, not just the American citizens, are invited to be public servants. Texas A&M and the Bush School are preparing future leaders from and for many nations all around the globe. Obviously, I'm honored to be the acting dean of the Bush School. The record of the Bush School is pretty phenomenal because of its faculty, teaching, research, service, but most of all, its graduates. They've earned a national reputation right near the top among public policy schools in America. And most compelling to me is that 70% of the graduates of the Bush School have gone into public service, twice the percentage of other major public policy schools. As President Lofted pointed out, the real dean of the Bush School, Ryan Crocker, recently RSVP'd to an invitation from the current President of the United States, number 44, to accept an obligation that had Dean Crocker taking an oath. He is now serving as ambassador to Afghanistan, but I know his thoughts and best wishes are with you. Our prayers and gratitude are with him. Ambassador Crocker will be back in Aggie Land in September of 2013. That's why I'm only the acting dean. So what invitations, obligations, and oaths will you be challenged to consider starting tomorrow or after you get your degree on Saturday? The good news is that because you accepted the invitation to come to A&M and because you earned the right to be forever Aggies, you are prepared better than most to know which invitations to accept and how to meet the obligations. And you're sure ready, thanks to the academic rigor in having made the grade, to be able to compete and do a good job. But you are also ready because Texas A&M and its traditions, Silver Taps, muster, fish camp, tea camp, Corps of Cadets, replant, big event, reveille, midnight yell, 12th man, maroon and white, and the symbol you wear, the Aggie ring, they what will stand you well. You know what true service is. You therefore know what invitations to accept. Take the time to ponder them. You know how to meet obligations, meet them well. And you know how to keep your oaths because they mean a lot. And who knows, maybe one of you someday might be taking an oath to serve as a general, as an admiral, as a chief of staff, as a member of a cabinet, or as President of the United States. After all, you are Aggies. There is much more for me to say, much, much more. But the truth is, you're the winners, and I have ROT, run out of time. God bless you. God bless Texas A&M, and Godspeed with your future examples. And oh yeah, gig 'em. Thank you very much.